Hi everyone, and welcome to Circle of Conversation with Cassie. To our new members, welcome. We hope you enjoy this website as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. And to our regular members, welcome today to a very special podcast video, which is with the lovely Patti Beecham. Now, just to give you a little bit of an idea, Patti has been a client of mine in the past. I met Patti a couple of years ago?
Couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And we've just kind of kept in contact. Also to do with what has happened to Patti in the last, couple of years. Perfect. All right. So let me give you a little hint as to what's happened to Patti in the last couple of years. So Patti has gone on to write her memoir?
My early memoir.
Early memoir to do with growing up, and you can tell the heading gives you a bit of a clue. Growing up rocky. So around the Rockhampton area.
Correct. Around Central Queensland.
Central Queensland. So when Patti actually, I think you sent me a picture to show me that you had actually done this.
Right.
And I was just like, wow. Wow. So I was very excited for you. I've read it. I'm not going to go too much into the actual early memoirs.
No plot spoilers.
But can I tell you, from my perspective reading it, it took me through every emotion, and it took me through some emotions that I hadn't even touched on for many years or I'd forgotten about. So to me, if a book can do that, we all know we can read a book, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, biography, autobiography, you can read it and you can put it down and go, oh yeah, that was a good read. But to me, if it triggers things for the reader, that is a really well-written book. So hats off to you. Hats off to you. From our perspective for our members, because we all know that this site is about intuitiveness and we do what we call life support. We don't call it life coaching, we call it life support, is about inspiring people and about all of us having conversations. So that's why we got Patti here today to talk on the circle, to just ask her a few questions more from our circle's perspective of the journey, the inspiration, how it came about, that type of thing.
It was a big journey.
It was a very big journey. So firstly, can I ask, what brought you to actually writing this?
Okay. Probably about three things. One, I came to see you, and that was probably the most important one because you gave me a reading and you said, my parents are encouraging me to write. And I thought, blimey, okay. And basically I'm a good kid and whatever my parents say, I do.
Wherever they are.
And so I went home to my husband and I said, I'm going to write 3 books. And I don't know what those books will be, but I'm going to write 3 books. And then we were changing computers. So the second inspiration was, as I was watching all of my data transfer across and thinking, oh my goodness, so much. I'm so prolific. I don't mean to be, just pause out. And there was Patti's book, Patti's new book 2017, Patti's book 2020. I thought, oh, for heaven's sakes. So I said to Chris, I'm going to put all of my poetry into one book, if for no other reason, so I have it in one place.
Yep.
So I did that. And then a bookshop owner said, no one reads poetry, so then I published the second book of poetry because I could. And then
sometimes that's what it's about, just because you can.
Well, that's right. Well, she poked me with a stick, so I pushed back. So, and I still didn't know what the third book would be, but I knew I had a book in me. And so the third instigation of writing, someone had tagged me during COVID as Father Warby's daughter from Rockhampton. My dad was an Anglican priest and quite a big fish in a small pond. And so they had said, Father Warby married me. Oh, Father Warby, he christened my, geez, I can't hear the whole story. And so I wrote a little story about Dad. Here's a funny story. And then I wrote another one. And then I wrote another one. And then someone said, don't give your book away. I thought, book? And I said to my husband, that's the book. That's the third book.
Yeah.
So there were 3 instigations for writing it. But probably the biggest one was you giving me permission to write. Because inside every writer, and I've been writing since I was 8 years old, always called myself a writer. Inside every writer, you have that sabotage voice in your head saying, you're no good, no one's going to read your words, no one's interested in your story, and you just have to zip it sometimes.
Yeah. And that happens, doesn't it, not just with writing, but anything in life, people wanting to move towards. We sabotage it more than people around us.
Yes. I've got a good, strong writing voice, but I've got a very loud critic's voice in my head as well, where you're just always doubting yourself. And thank you, because you gave me permission to be myself and to write, and for that I'll always be grateful.
Gave permission. And if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember I had to keep holding a pen up in front of you. I think I kept saying, what does the pen mean, if I remember correctly. Okay, so...
I remember one time, sorry to interrupt, you said, how old are you? And I said, well, the voice in my head said, I'm 12. And I found myself saying, well, I'm 64, thinking, am I that old?
Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm 12.
12.
And so my 12-year-old wrote her story. Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
I know.
Now, did you know that you had it in you to bring it together? Or did you just kind of go, okay, this is it? This is it.
I just went for it. I trusted myself enough to know that I can write.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just comes easily to me. And so I'm in 2 writing groups. I'm in the BY Writers Group and I'm in the Sunshine Coast Writers Group. And I make every Saturday my writing day, plus every other day at 3 a.m. in the morning when I'm on my phone. This is how I wrote most of the book.
On
my phone.
Wow.
Some of it on desktop because I am a classically trained typist, so I can fling those words around.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'd think, I'm just going to write about this, and I just sit there quietly in my little chair and it's just me and the phone.
Isn't it amazing? Because sometimes some of the blocks or self-sabotage is I can't do that because I haven't got an office, I haven't got a desk, I haven't got a computer. And sometimes we self-sabotage what is a gift to us or something within us to do because we put all these blocks up. And that's what I was interested in. You know, did you kind of do a lot of prep or did it just come?
I did. Every time I thought of something, I'm going to write about that. I have to write about that. Thinking, how am I going to put this patchwork quilt of experiences together? And I thought there's that underlining theme of how my family dealt with tragedy and how that tragedy broke our family, never really to be put back together.
Yeah.
And so that's what I concentrated on because in memoir, it's not your whole life, it's just a part of your life.
Yes.
And a very detailed part of that life. And so every time I think of something, I'd write myself a little email, flick it off to myself, and I'd go into the desk the next morning and think, cut, paste. And so I started off with 9 pages of ideas and I ended up with 45 pages.
Wow. So once you start, it does kind of come together.
It does snowball because each memory, and you know what? And of course, the book's published, it's out, it's on its second reprint, and I'm thinking, I never even mentioned that. Why didn't I say this? Blah, 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 blah. But, you know, it is what it is. You can't write everything.
No,
and some of the memories are terrific, but do they progress the story? No, they don't. They're just a good story, so I didn't put them in. Every chapter tells an aspect of family life, good or bad. So
now, can I ask, were you part of a writing group before you wrote this, or did that come after?
No, I've been part of the BY Writers Group for, I think I'm in my 7th year.
Okay.
So we do critique each other's work. And, it's good.
The reason that just came to me then is, again, we have a lot of people and ourselves who we want to do something, and part of helping get us on that path is connecting. And a lot of people say to me, whether I meet them or their clients that I've seen for many years, they don't know how to enjoy or to fall in love with something. And I say to people, you've got to start falling in love with life.
You do.
And, to start writing and then be part of a group, again, that's connection.
Yep.
Whether it's art, we were just talking, I dabble a bit with art.
And it's just big girls' pants, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're just going to go, this is the direction I want to go. Yeah. How do I go about doing that?
And I dare say that I know this has sold heaps, it's on its second print, but I dare say that even if you sold one book, you can't tell me there wasn't that satisfaction, that part of going through that story for yourself. And the fact that even if one person read it and it was of benefit to that person, either resolving something in their memories like it did for me.
Yes.
To me, purpose accomplished. But the success you had with it is just wonderful.
Yes, I'm very grateful. But I'm an all marketing girl too, so if I can't market my own book, there's something terribly wrong. But one thing I found about writing the book was, did I cry? And do you know what I cried about? Our old dog, Fleabag, Prince he was called. He always was on the nose, rolling around in the manure of the stables next door. I howled and howled, and it really made me think, why is this so triggering? Why am I so upset with this dog, And I realised it was because we loved him and he loved us, just warts and all.
Simple.
Pure and simple. He bound our family together, and I did not realise that until I wrote the book. So writing can be very cathartic, and I think I've kind of resolved my issues with my mother. I'm not sure.
Because that was another thing I was going to tap on. We just discussed before we started this today, there's some words out there that I feel are overused and overabused at the moment. One of them's healing. We just seem to be attaching that word to everything. But I do want to know, did you feel when you got to the end of this and you'd put it all together that some things had been released, that you were looking at things from a different perspective? I guess you just touched on that with your dog.
I think so. Well, that's right. And the fact that this mongrel dog brought our family together was very telling, that we had to be brought together by an outside animal, It wasn't from sibling love or acceptance or encouragement or anything like that, As my brother in Bowen rang up and said, Patti, when you were growing up, we couldn't have given it SHIT. And I went, I know.
Yeah.
I do understand that. You really need to say that out loud. I got that loud and clear even when I was a little girl. But I think my mother, I do write quite extensively about her, and I think that she was probably suffering depression, and she was probably growing her anxiety and going through menopause. I don't know. So I have sort of, as an adult to an adult, I have kind of resolved that. But anyway, yes.
Because that's part of what I also got out of it is, and again, I'll put it in a terminology because if people have heard it, they'll understand. Mm-hmm. It's like that emotional DNA handed down that sometimes we don't realise that we're taking on from before us. And there was a few things in the book that was for me.
Yes.
Where sometimes when we're in it and we're growing in the story, we don't realise from the other perspective. And you just said you looked at it from adult to adult.
I tried to.
You could see where your mum was coming from.
My two sisters, not a critique or anything, but just stating, they do tend to idolise mum and dad, as most children do to their parents.
Yep.
Of course, we all love our parents unconditionally. But I tried to see my parents through their faults, through their greatness, through their humanness.
Exactly.
So,
and that's where when I personally talk to a lot of clients, that's that's what it's about.
Mm.
It's about not finger pointing.
Mm.
It's about looking at it adult to adult. You're not looking at it from child anymore.
That's right.
And you're looking at it from those adult eyes, and you can sometimes see where that's come from.
Yes. I mean, I have written this story as a 5-year-old, as a 10-year-old, as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm looking at my mother and as an adult.
And I think
going,
that's what I really loved about it.
Yeah.
Was you were looking at both sides from an adult's eyes, but the experience was from a child's eyes.
Yes.
And that's the two things that stirred in me, which I absolutely loved.
Well, I say in the book I told the truth, and I did, except I did change one name.
Did you not want that person to be...
I didn't want to embarrass her.
Oh,
But
okay.
anyway, well, you know.
It wasn't me, was it?
No!
Because if it was, it went completely over my head.
No, it's one of the chapters about singing.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to remember that part.
Oh, it's all good. Anyway, but I did try to tell the truth, because that's the only way that you can live your life, and that's the only way that you can write a book.
Exactly, exactly. So I just want to touch on the poems as well, because I haven't seen this one before. I've seen this and I've read this.
Well, this is my first book that I popped out.
Yeah.
So that's over my 45-year journey of writing poetry.
I'll have to have a read of that too, because I've, for some reason, a lot of poetry in the last, 12 months keeps coming across my path. And when you read it, it's a bit like a book. One poem might do nothing for you, and then the next poem you read, it just stirs something in you. And I think there's nothing more beautiful than poetry being read out. I just love the reading out of poetry as well.
Disclaimer, I'm not a rhyming poet.
No, sometimes they're the best, because they're the stories in there.
I say elegant thoughts and observations.
That's a good quote. That's a very good quote.
With my love, Cassie.
Thank you. I'm going to read that. Now, Patti, just tell us where we can get this book from.
Mainly from me. It's available in the Mulaney bookshops. It's available in the Perugian bookshop, Annie's. It's available in some of the Brisbane bookshops. Otherwise, contact me.
Yep. And if anybody wants a copy and for some reason they missed Patti's details, which we're going to get you to tell everyone at the end, you can contact me and I can organise to let you know.
And it's on digital and audio as well.
I'm falling in love with audio.
Yes.
Loving audio.
Yeah.
It's very good. So I just want to know how you feel now that it's done and dusted. How do you feel?
Truthfully relieved, truthfully proud, truthfully exhausted, because I only bring myself up till I'm 20. I've got a lot of living to do yet, and I do say that I'm on my second memoir, which is true. I'm going to give myself about a year to write it.
Watch this
The thing is, I know, but just sit down and think, oh yes, I'm going to write about this. You go, oh gee. Sometimes it's just bad enough living it, let alone regurgitating it all. But anyway, that's what we've got to do. We're writers. We've got to dig in deep and do the hard yards and make it an enjoyable read for you, and an honest reflection of our own life.
So what advice would you give to someone? So we talked about there's lots of different things that we're gifted at that we need to fall back in love with. But talking specifically today on this podcast video about inspiration, if someone's always liked writing, wanted to write but again did that self-sabotage, what would be the first step advice you would give them?
Start writing. Trust yourself. Start writing. Writing is a muscle like anything else, like singing, like your painting. Everything has practice, and writing is no different. But basically, trust yourself. Trust your intuition. Trust your gut. Back yourself.
Which is basically everything that Circle of Conversation's about. Trust. Trust yourself. Trust the universe. Trust the signposts that are being put in front of you. Trust those little synchronicities that you think are irrelevant. Trust. So this whatever it is growing inside you that you desire to do, whether it's creative, whether it's writing, whatever it is, trust that just do it. Do it and see where it leads to, because you can be very pleasantly surprised at the outcome.
And you can always edit.
Always. Now, last question.
Yes.
What's to come now for Patti Beecham?
Well, you did mention your painting. So I'm going to tap out my next lot of memoir. I'm not going to do any more poetry because I'm just not. I've been there and I've done that. I'm moving forward, and I would love to explore my art. So I can't paint, mind you, but it's not stopped me before. So, I mean, how hard can it be?
Exactly.
So, as you say, there's YouTube. There's plenty of painting art classes.
Definitely.
The point is, work out what's in your head. What do you really want to do? What do you really want to leave as a legacy? What do you really want to make you happy with? So it's going to be art.
That's what it's about.
So I keep driving past these beautiful rolling hills of Mullaney and Montefiore and Mapleton.
And you've got to paint
going,
them.
I would love to paint that thing. Oh, that's right, I can't paint. Oh well.
But you know what? What I've learned, it's whether it's writing, whether it's art, whatever it is, it's the process. It's the stillness. It's
Yes.
giving yourself permission, and we've tapped on this as well when we've talked, giving yourself permission to sit still and just enjoy your own company, doing whatever it is. Doesn't matter whether you're good at it or not good at it. It's the stillness and it's the creativity.
The creativity. Humans are very creative people. Yes, you do see an elephant paint and a cat, but very rarely. We are creative people, from the first scratchings on the French caves
That is so
of
true.
bison to hitting clapsticks together. We are a creative human species, and you need to let it out.
That's so true. The closest thing to the creator, whether you call it the universe, God, whatever your terminology is, the closest we can get to that is creating, because they're the creator, creating.
Yep.
So that stillness of creating, whether you're sitting, whether you're typing, whether you're writing, whether you're painting, whether you're gardening, just tap into that. And I guess part of having Patti here today is when we start that, it could be something we already know we're gifted at, but stop that self-sabotaging and just do it. And you just don't know where it will lead to, which is absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Patti. Patti, just tell us any details as to how people can get your book again.
How do they get my book?
So is there a website link? Or?
Well, there is. It's on pattybeechamproductions.com, and I'm on Facebook under Patti Beecham Author, or Instagram, Patti Beecham Author.
All right. And
Google me, I'll come up.
Google and come up. And what we might do is I might just get that information from Patti and just some of the stores that it's available up here on the coast, and we'll put that up on our Circle website.
That'd
For
be great.
anybody who'd want to do it. So thank you, Patti. Please grab a copy. It is a fantastic read. Be prepared for all the emotions, because it really takes you back to your childhood, and it also shows you, what happens in other people's journeys as well. But I laughed, I cried, I got stirred, and it's a really fabulous story, and I look forward to 20 plus. Very exciting. Thanks, Patti.
I should have called it that.
20 plus. Thanks, guys. We'll
Thanks,
talk
Cassie.
soon.
See ya.
Bye. Where is this?